You know, in the world of MMA, every so often a new force of nature just arrives. We're talking about a middleweight who packs the kind of power you'd expect to see from a heavyweight. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the story of Ateba Gautier.
Okay, let's just start with this quote because wow. When commentators start tossing around phrases like Kiloton punch and living nightmare, you know you're not dealing with just another prospect. That's the kind of reputation that literally walks into the octagon with him before a punch is even thrown.
So who is this guy they're calling the new African monster? Well, he's hands down one of the most exciting and, let's be honest, terrifying prospects in the sport right now. And that is a heavy crown to wear. I mean, being compared to another Cameroonian powerhouse like Francis Ngannou, that sets the expectations sky high. But the big question is he just another power puncher, or is there something more? The UFC seems to think so, really seeing him as that next great African champion with the kind of raw power that grabs the whole world's attention.
But here's where his story takes a really interesting turn. Gautier's path wasn't forged in some dusty gym since he was a kid. Nope, it actually started in a classroom. Let's take a look at his pretty unlikely journey to the cage.
Okay, this timeline is just wild. Get this, he picks up combat sambo at 17. Just 2 years later, at 19, he's making a pro MMA debut, basically raw, with almost no prep. While all of this is happening, moving to a whole new country to find a decent gym at 20, he's also hitting the books and graduates with a degree in physics. It's a combination you just don't see. Brains and brutal force. It really makes you wonder if that physics background lets him see angles and force in a way other fighters just can't.
And here's the heart behind it all. The physics degree wasn't some side hobby, it was a promise. He saw how tirelessly his mother worked for him back in their village, and he was absolutely determined to honor that sacrifice by getting his education, even while his fighting career was starting to explode.
You know, every great fighter has a turning point, right? A moment that just defines them. For Gautier, it didn't come from a big win. It came from a bitter defeat that changed absolutely everything.
So here it is, the moment that changed his whole career. In just his second pro fight, he's completely dominating his opponent, only to get what pretty much everyone saw as blatantly robbed by the local judges. But instead of getting discouraged, he made a vow. He decided right then and there that from that day on, the judges would never, ever have a say in his fate again.
And that vow? It unleashed an absolute storm. His new philosophy transformed him into one of the most feared finishers in the entire sport. Let's just look at the results. 4. Just look at that number. He went on an absolute tear, finishing 4 straight opponents, all of them in the very first round. That kind of shocking dominance does not go unnoticed, and yeah, it punched his ticket straight to the UFC.
And this is where you see it's not just mindless aggression, it's physics in motion. He has a system. Look here, he'll start with a little hand feint just to get a reaction, make his opponent bring that guard up. In that tiny little split second of confusion, he disguises a lightning-fast switch kick right behind it. It's so clever because it uses his opponent's own defensive instincts against them. And by the time they realize what's actually happening, it's just too late.
The momentum was just undeniable. He gets his UFC contract by stopping an undefeated fighter, then he makes his debut with a sickening knee KO. He follows that up by finishing Robert Valentine and cashing a massive $100,000 bonus check. He wasn't just winning, he was making huge statements with every single fight.
And here you go, validation from the boss himself. Dana White just perfectly nails what Gautier is all about. Immense raw talent, unbelievable power, but also, in his own words, super green. He sees this incredible potential, but he also knows this guy is still very much a work in progress. The final product is definitely still under construction.
But what happens when that fight-ending power just doesn't land? His next challenge was going to test more than just his chin. It was going to test his will to win when things got really tough.
Just look at this table. It tells a story all on its own. KO by knee, TKO by punches, another KO by knee. You see the pattern, right? A clear line of finishes. And then you get to Andre Polv, unanimous decision. For a fighter who vowed to never let it go to the judges, this fight was a completely different kind of battle. So how'd Polvium do it? He fought a brilliant, strategic fight. He was smart. He didn't try to trade power for power, that's a losing game. Instead, he chopped away at Gautier's body, actually damaging his elbow with kicks. He intelligently circled away from that big power hand, and by the third round, he was confident enough to just pepper a tired Gautier with shots. He basically laid out a blueprint on how to survive against this kind of powerhouse.
But there's some crucial context here. Gautier later confirmed he was fighting through an injury.
Those body kicks we just mentioned, they did real damage to his elbow, and that likely took away a lot of his finishing ability. I mean, think about that. Winning a decision, going the distance, while injured, that showed us a whole new side to his game. Pure, unadulterated grit.
So this all brings us to the ultimate question. We've seen the power, we've seen the unique background, and we've seen the heart. But is he truly the heir to the middleweight throne?
And this is the most fascinating thing about Ateba Gautier, this total duality. Outside the cage, he's humble, he's religious, he's completely dedicated. He even calls himself the most boring guy you can have as a friend. But the second that cage door locks, he transforms. He becomes this physical monster with a crazy 81-inch wingspan and that power that can end a fight with just one touch.
So we're left with this question, right? He's got the God-given power, he's got youth on his side, and now we know he's got the mindset to grind through a tough fight. But is that combination enough to take on the very best, most experienced fighters in the world? Is all that raw talent enough to really claim the throne? Well, only time is going to tell.